This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.
Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Today my message is stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop feeling sorry for yourself because you have what it takes. You already have what it takes. It may not look like it, may not seem like it, but God has created you in such a unique way that you have what it takes. But think about all the people who, are down in the dumps because they say, I'm too young, or I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too sick, I have too many children, I'm too poor, don't have enough money. But I am here to encourage you. That's what I want to do today, is to encourage you with the thought that you ought to stop feeling sorry for yourself because you already have what it takes. God has given you more than you can imagine. I want to read to you a Bible verse from the call of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was one of the greatest prophets that ever lived, one of the greatest prophets who ever walked the face of the earth. But when God called him, Jeremiah said, I'm too young. Listen to what Jeremiah says to the response of God. This is in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 6. He says, Then I said, Lord God, truly I do not know how to speak, for I am only a boy. But the Lord said to me, Do not say, I am only a boy, for you shall go. You shall go to all whom I send you, and you shall speak whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to deliver you, says the Lord. In other words, what the Lord is saying to Jeremiah is stop feeling sorry for yourself. You already have what it takes. You may not realize it. You may not see it. You may not understand it, but you already have what it takes. And that's my starting point today. I want you to ask yourself, how many times in my life have I not done something because I just didn't think I fit in? Has there ever been a time in your life, maybe right now, somebody looking at this is feeling sorry for themselves, feeling sorry because your life hadn't turned out the way you wanted it to turn out, feeling sorry because you don't have a job that's fulfilling, feeling sorry because you have a marriage that's combustible, a marriage where you're fighting with one another, or you have a marriage where you're not talking to one another, not sharing with one another. You may be feeling sorry for yourself. And somebody looking at this may even be asking hard questions. Why in the world did I marry that person? Why in the world did I choose to live in the city where I'm living? And my encouragement to you is stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop feeling sorry because you already have more than enough. Now you may be asking yourself, but Reverend Hood, what makes you think you know that I have more than what I need? And it's because I've seen it in my own life. In my own life, I think about times when I looked at other people, looked at people that they looked like they had it all together. And I didn't realize until I started talking with them that there's a whole lot of stuff they didn't have together. Even to this day, I meet people who, on the outside, they look like they're smart. On the outside, they look like they're confident, self-confident. But then the more I talk with them, the more I realize that sometimes they have doubts. And some of the biggest doubts that some people have are with themselves. But you are not born by accident. You have been born, set foot on this earth, because God chose you to be alive. God did not choose you to be dead. God chose you to be alive. God chose you not to be hungry, but to be well fed. God chose you not to suffer, but to live an abundant kind of life. And when Jesus talks about this abundant life, that I come that you might have life and to have life more abundantly, what he's really saying is, I'm coming and I've come to earth that you might have enough to eat. I've come to earth that you might have a fulfilled life. What is a fulfilled life? A fulfilled life to me is a happy life. A fulfilled life is a meaningful life. You know, people talk about, I heard a podcast the other week where this so-called expert was talking about how to find a good wife, how to find a good mate. And one of the more interesting ones that I heard was the guy was gay and the woman was straight. Just this week on the New York Times, their podcast called The Daily. And this expert was talking about how could a gay man and a straight woman find love with one another. And I knew the answer before they got to it. But what they both admitted was that in the process, after meeting one another, dating with one another, but even from the very first meeting, they kind of clicked. And in the process of clicking, they found fun with each other. Fun that's not necessarily sexual, not intimate, but just fun. There are things they could laugh about, things that they could enjoy together, things that they could talk about and relate to one another. And I've been telling my wife for some time now, I said, if I were writing a book on dating, one of the things, and how to find the right mate, I would say at the very number one thing is find somebody you have fun with, somebody you can enjoy. And sometimes, we get mixed up in terms of trying to figure out, well, what really will give me happiness and what will truly give me joy. But when a man and a woman can find fun with one another, you find somebody you can laugh with, somebody you can enjoy their time and their company, somebody you can have a conversation with, and it makes sense. That's when you know you're on the right track. And as it turned out, with this podcast I was telling you about from the New York Times, with the gay man and the straight woman, they had so much fun together, they eventually became intimate with one another. And both of them said they were terrified at being intimate because they hadn't been intimate. But in the process, they found that the intimacy worked. And it worked I'm not the expert on this, but I think it worked because they were friends with one another. And that to me is where intimacy starts. Finding somebody you just love, somebody you like to be around. And I think if we spent less time feeling sorry for ourselves and more time just realizing that God put you here for a reason, then you realize that you hit the ground running and you can take your life to the next level. And so I say that today to encourage you. I know that there's somebody looking at this right now and feeling sorry for themselves. Feeling sorry, I've been talking to a number of people who've been to prison. And some people feel sorry for themselves that either for valid reasons or not valid reasons, they spent time in prison. But I encourage them, stop feeling sorry for yourself, put your shovel in the ground where you are, and hold your head high and just start taking your life to the next level. And like Jeremiah, don't beat yourself up because you think you're too young. Like Jeremiah, don't beat yourself up because you're too this, too that, too little, too big, too whatever. Just start where you are. You have more than what you think. And the more you realize that even if you can't see how much you really represent, the more you begin to realize that if I just shut up and listen to what God is telling me, if I just stand still and let the Lord point me in a direction, if I just follow God's Holy Spirit, God will bless me. God will renew me. God will show me. God will lead me where I need to be. I want to thank you for tuning into this program. I want you to know I'm going to take a break. And after the break, we're going to come back and I want to talk a little bit more about stop feeling sorry for yourself. Thank you again. I really appreciate you tuning in today, and I'll be right back.
There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this new platform will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world, and Lord knows we need it.
Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm talking about stop feeling sorry for yourself, because you already have more than what it takes. You have more than you can imagine. And, from the call of Jeremiah in chapter 1, one of the things we learned is that Jeremiah was called by God to be a prophet. But Jeremiah was afraid that he was too young. He said, I'm too young. I don't know how to speak. And God told him, he said, I'll put words in your mouth. And not only will I do that, I will protect you. I will deliver you. And I want you to look back at your life and ask yourself, how many times has the Lord delivered me? And if the Lord hadn't delivered me, what did I do to get myself into a mess that I thought I couldn't get out of? But God sees something more in you than you can see in yourself. Some people think the reverse of Jeremiah. They feel sorry for themselves because they think they're too old. And God is saying to the elderly, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Even though you can't walk as fast as you used to walk, you can't hear like you used to hear, you can't see like you used to see, but for whatever it is you feel lacking in, I will make up the difference. Now, one of the things I like about getting older, I'm 73 now, and one of the things I like about getting older, I was telling this to my wife just today. I said, Denise, one of the things I like about getting older is it seems like your old age is an equalizer. And she said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, when you're young, handsome is really handsome. And good looking and beautiful is really good looking and beautiful. But when you get older, everybody gets older. and all of a sudden, everybody is equalized. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have something. When I went to high school, I went to the technical school in Detroit. Some people used to say it looked like a factory. It had 8 floors, Cass Technical High School. And if you couldn't go there for just general studies, at least when I went there, everybody had to declare a curriculum. And so my curriculum was music. And I didn't go there with any great ambitions or ideas. I just, I felt like I played a trombone well enough where, I could be in their musical ensembles. And the musical director said he didn't want me playing football because he said my mouth was precious to him. He said, I cannot afford for anybody to hit you in your mouth. He said, young man, you will decide today what you will play, but it will not be both. And I said, I'm in. And I was happy to do that. But one of the side benefits of being a musician, this is, from 1967 to 69, is that I began to play kind of on the underground, to my musical director. I began to play in an R&B band. I put together an R&B band called Seven Sounds. And we just did that for fun. But in the 11th grade, we started playing for money, relatively good money for that time in American history. But one of the interesting things was we played these big high school parties in the big hotels in Detroit, the labor union halls and other big clubs and venues. We played at our convention center. Back then it was called Cobo Hall. But one of the interesting things was we would attract hundreds of young people who would show up for these parties. And I saw guys at these parties who I'm sure many of the girls thought were handsome, a good catch or whatever. But I was talking to one of my band members about this, and former band members. I said, it's so interesting. One of the side effects of playing in a band was, as my friend said, it was an equalizer for us, in that may not have been the most handsome person in the world, may not have felt like I was the greatest catch out there, but because we were little local rock stars, if you might say, we weren't recording, but because this was the life we had chosen for that time in life, all of a sudden things were equalized. And I believe that God looks at each of us in the same way, that God looks at your life and says, whatever it is you lack, I will compensate for. If you don't speak well, I'll put words in your mouth. If you don't do mathematics very well, then I'll show you how to write. I didn't do very well in the higher math and algebra. They wouldn't let me take calculus. I was that bad. And they said, Nick, we're going to let, my counselor told me, he said, you got more than enough science classes. We're going to let that make up for your math, because if you stick with math, you may not graduate. But one of the surprising things to me is, guess what? Even though I wasn't very strong in math, I loved to write even back then. And I am writing to the glory of God right now. And I thank God I don't have to, survive on an algebraic formula, because I'd be a poor man. But God has a way of meeting each of us where we are. Somebody looking at this program right now feels like you're deficient. Deficient as a mother, deficient as a grandmother, deficient because you don't make as much money as you think you need to have. But what I encourage you to do is just stand still, pray to the Lord for guidance, and just watch what happens. I mean, literally, sit still, stand still, sit and stand long enough, and you don't necessarily have to have a dissertation. You don't have to have all the fancy words, but just slow down long enough to listen to what God is showing you. And then, as you go through life, ask yourself, what is God trying to tell me right now? I believe the Lord is speaking to you right now. And a lot of us can't hear it and we can't see it because we're too busy feeling sorry for ourselves. You know, I was feeling sorry for myself a few days ago because I had to go represent the church, in a very significant matter. And the format that I was in would not allow a lawyer to speak. And I said, who am I? I'm not a lawyer. Who am I? How am I going to do this? And it could make all the difference in the world. And as things turned out, I walked away from that meeting receiving much more than I could even imagine. I had much more than I asked for because I couldn't imagine more. And the point that I'm trying to make, my friends, is that God is looking down from heaven at you right now. And God sees your predicament. God knows the choices you have made. God knows the choices you have not made. God knows your downsitting and your uprising. The Lord can see your thoughts from afar. And because God can see you in a way that you cannot see yourself, you ought to just stop feeling sorry for yourself. Take a moment to slow down with yourself. And when you slow down, you'll begin to see something you never even imagined. You'll see more in your husband. You'll see more in your wife. You'll see more in your way of life if you just slow down. But some of us can't enjoy the blessings that God has given us because we're just moving too fast. There's a song I used to listen to on the radio, an R&B song. I don't remember all the words, but the title is Slow Down. Some people can't find love because they're too fast. Some of us can't settle on the right job because we're moving. I know some people who've gone through 10 jobs in 1 year. And it's because they're just not satisfied. And one of the things we don't realize is, it's hard to build an economic career. It's hard to build a professional career if you keep moving. It's hard for people to take you seriously if you're changing your phone number every month. And in love, you can't build love until you slow down. Some of us can't really enjoy the coupled life, the married life. Even if you're not married, the dating life, we can't enjoy it because we're always looking over our shoulder, trying to see, is there somebody more handsome? Is there somebody who looks like they're more fun? Somebody who's a better choice? And what I hear God telling Jeremiah is, don't kick yourself for being young. And I would take the converse. Don't kick yourself for being too old. God will meet you where you are, take you where you want to be. We only have a couple minutes left, but I just want to say this, that I am just thrilled to know that you have taken time out of your day this Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to watch this religious broadcasting. I believe that the Lord has called me to do this because there are a lot of people who don't want to go to church. There are a lot of folk who are going to church but don't really feel fulfilled because of church. There are a lot of us who are turned off from God because somebody we love has died. Some of us are turned off from God because we asked God for something and it didn't come in the way, the shape, or the form of what we were looking for. And what I encourage you to do is stop being so hard on God, stop being so hard on yourself, and just slow down. Slow down spiritually. Pray to the Lord that the Lord might meet you where you are. Understand your down sitting and your uprising, and then that the Lord will take you to where you ought to be. I believe that the Lord is ready. I believe that the Lord already has a plan for you. But sometimes we can't enjoy God's plan because we're in too big a hurry. We're in too big a hurry, and sometimes we're in too fast a moment of our lives where we just feel sorry for ourselves. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You are better than you think. You are smarter than you might imagine. You are better looking than you might think. You may not think you're very good looking, but you look better than you think. And you don't believe me? Stick around for a while and you'll find somebody who will tell you in their own way, you are a good looking woman. You're a good looking man. Thanks so much for being part of this. If you like this program, I hope you'll consider supporting it. I need your help, but more than anything else, I really appreciate just knowing that you are with me today. God bless you, God keep you, and remember, I'm praying for you.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons. But I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's ministries. You'll never be the same.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.